opportunities. Another one for my industry events and small business events. And then another one for your regular RFP, things that are a little bit further along, just in case you see something that really fits your niche. But it's a great tool. It's got a lot of capability to save your searches, to send you emails when those search results change. You can also follow opportunities and really use it in a variety of ways. Here's a little, just a quick rundown of some of the search criteria. You can search by organization, which is helpful. You can search by notice type, so whether it's a RFI, RFP. Product service information, I always start searching with my North American Industrial Classification System code because that gives me a broad filter that I can narrow from. You can search for set-asides, whether it's a woman-owned, hub zone, 8A, SDVOSB, service disabled vet. And you can search by place of performance, which is really helpful. If I'm a small local shop and I'm doing landscaping, or if I'm doing HVAC or electrical, obviously I'm going to want to search in my home state and territory first before expanding outwards. And they've added some good capability here for the ability to search multiple states at a time, which was just added earlier this year. And then here's some additional filters. I don't use these a ton, but they're definitely there if you need to use them. And we'll look through some of those in the demo. The contract data domain is interesting. It's a halfway pull from FPDS, which is your Federal Procurement Data System. Now, FPDS is still very much in use. That is the authoritative source for past contracts. So when I'm looking at my market research, I want to find out who's buying what I'm selling. And the way I'm going to be able to tell that is by searching past contracts based on my NAICS code or keyword or set aside, and then looking through those past awards and saying, okay, this agency seems to be buying a lot of CNC machine parts. And then from there, I want to start my outreach and marketing. But I want to be able to put my targets in order and prioritize them, because as a small business, I have few resources. I'm wearing many hats. There's too many fires, not enough water. You want to be as efficient as possible. And using these data reports, it really does help you. Now, if I'm doing overall market research from a high level, I'm probably going to usaspending.gov. But even on sam.gov, you have some really good static and standard reports you can use. And then they have an ad hoc report builder, which is the ability to use a report builder to build your own reports to get that past contract award data. And just a caveat on the reports, again, FPDS is still very much in use. I use it often. But the report builder in sam.gov was converted over. And if you have ad hoc reports prior to January 31st, 2020, they converted. If you created ad hoc reports after in FPDS, then you'd have to recreate. And here's some additional training and videos on contract data. This is probably one of the more complicated sections in sam.gov because it does have an ad hoc report builder, and that takes a little while to get used to. But you can see the static reports are great, and you can view these whenever you want in sam.gov. They also have standard reports. They go a little bit deeper. And then you have your ad hoc reports, which is your own custom deep dive. One of my favorite reports is the Small Business Goaling Report right here, because that will help me if I'm a woman-owned small business and I know that I have a top 20 agency list that are buying what I'm selling. Well, then I'm going to go in there and I'm going to pull the Small Business Goaling Report. I'm going to see which agencies have met their woman-owned small business goals and which of my target agencies haven't. And then I'm going to go and reach out to the agencies that may be a little bit shy of their women-owned small business goal first. That helps me prioritize my target list because they may be a little bit more accessible because of that fact. I'm not saying that the other agencies wouldn't, but it gives you a little bit more incentive when you have that goaling in mind. Here's just some of the criteria in the ad hoc reporting. You can see it's you have a ton of options. You can build some really dynamic reports using these different metrics. Again, it takes a little bit to learn the system. There's a great reference guide right here that's linked in the presentation. You can also call your local PTAC and we can help you get other resources. And there's a few of us that may be able to walk you through it as well. The wage determinations domain, that's really for your service and construction companies. It has, the service contract agreement and the Davis-Bacon Act. It gives information on both of those, but it gives you the prevailing wage. So if you're looking for the prevailing wage of any given area, whether it's the SCA or it's the Davis-Bacon Act, really great tool to use. You can search by state, county, construction type, whether it's been previously performed or keywords. I've never had an issue using this report. It's pretty straightforward. But again, if you're looking for a prevailing wage and you're not finding what you need, you can look. I just pulled up Ohio in this one to give an example. But it's got your basic counties, and it runs through them pretty well. Again, great tool if you need to find prevailing wage data. The federal hierarchy domain, to be quite honest, I don't find a lot of use in sam.gov for that, but I have given you an alternative resource here. usaspending.gov has a treasure trove of information. I believe they have 108 different agency profiles, and you can see just by a screenshot here. It gives you their budgetary resourcing. It gives you a breakdown on different funding types. It has links to their strategy documents, to their website, to their budget justification. When I'm doing my legwork and I'm investigating the different agencies that I'm targeting, this is where I'm going because I want to be able to tie back into their strategy. I want to be able to give my value proposition in reference to what they're trying to accomplish. And this really does a good job of giving you that ammo to go in there with. The assistance listings domain is not what you think it may be. So when I'm looking for grant opportunities, I'm going to grants.gov because that's what I'm looking for my business. But assistance listings are the grants that are given to community development corporations. Our PTAC grant is one of the assistance listings. It's called PTAP. So if you're, for instance, going after an RFP let out by a community college, you may find some good information in the grant that they received from the federal government. And that's where you would go to assistance listings. Those are the federal government grants given to the states, given to the different colleges, the different institutions, and then they'll let out the RFP from there. Again, you can search by keyword, and if you notice, a lot of these search criteria are similar to one another. And you can see I just pulled up the SBDC and the PTAP grant and an example. Those are the grants that flow down to the community colleges that fund us or the universities that fund us. But those are the high-level grants from federal. So you can see one's by the SBA and the other one's by the DOD. But you can look through these to see if you can't glean any extra information when you're responding to an RFP or an RFQ to one of those agencies that are funded by these grants. So what happened during the merger? There was a big change that happened May 24th, and it was basically moving beta.sam and SAM into a single platform. Now, with all big changes, there have been some unexpected consequence. There's been a lot of good things that came from the change, but also some bugs and some things that we had to work through. You can see that it's no longer beta.sam, it's just sam.gov. But they also changed the workspace. And I think it's a really slick workspace now that gives you just a great single page view into your entity. Now you do have some reporting access. You have your login requirement now to search different entity registration data. You can see there's a before and after comparison guide linked here, but you'll notice it right off the bat that it's a new layout and design, and it's based on best practice. The GSA has worked to develop this using best practices, but also agile development. So they are steadily prioritizing and making additional change, adding features, adding functionality based on feedback that they're getting. So a really important thing I want to foot stomp here is at the bottom of every page, there's a green feedback button. And if you aren't seeing something that you want to see, or if you think things could be better arranged differently, you can click on that feedback button and you can send feedback in right on that page to the GSA and their development team. They've done a lot of testing with different focus groups and in different user bases. I'm one of the beta alpha testers, if you will, for GSA. It's really simple to become one. If anybody's ever interested in becoming a tester, by all means, send me a note and I'll give you the information to get signed up. But they've done a lot of work, and with any big migration, there's going to be some quirks and some things that are left wanting. But overall, they're constantly working on this platform. They know how pivotal it is for people to be able to use this and access this data. Here's just a couple of frequently asked questions. The one I like the second one a lot. Will notifications of contract opportunity established be more like FBO in the future? They say yes. I know change takes time, but I can't wait for that. I was one of the I loved using federal business opportunities. When they made the migration, they didn't do it in the most elegant of ways. But I'd love to see it get a little bit more like that. Another great fact is the fact that if you were due to renew your entity between April 1st and September 30th, they've added 6 more months to your expiration date. Now, if you have any questions about when your expiration date is, and you want somebody to look that up, never hesitate to reach out to your local PTAC, because we have the ability to go in there and look at when your expiration date is. But not only that, we have the ability to help walk you through your registration or your renewal. There's a lot of companies out there that are probably sending you junk email or spam email as your registration date gets closer. And they want to charge you $400, $600 to take over that registration. That does a couple of things that are pretty bad for you. One, it gives them authority to renew your entity, and sometimes getting that authority back is really tough. It takes time. It's kind of a hassle. Another reason is the fact that it's costing you $400 to $600 every year when the PTAC is here to do it free. So whenever you see any of those emails and you're not sure about it, feel free to send it over to your local PTAC counselors. We can usually, 9 times out of 10 right off the bat, tell you whether or not it's a useful email. A quick bit of advice: if it doesn't end in .gov, you probably don't need it. So, from that respect, definitely never hesitate to use us as a resource when it comes time to renew or to even register in the first place. Will your searches roll over? As you probably are aware by now, your searches have rolled over. They should be preserved. You should have them in your workspace. If you ever have trouble setting up searches, again, we're a resource for that. I walk my clients through using this capability, and we brainstorm on the best ways to set up searches for the maximum effect often. Another change is the new unique entity identifier. Right now, everybody that is logged in and registered with sam.gov, they're using their DUNS number as their unique identifier. Now that is authoritative, and that will be authoritative even though you've probably already been given a new UEI. That will stop being authoritative and your UEI will become authoritative on April 4th of 2022. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, really nothing right now. There's nothing that you have to do to get that UEI. We can always show you how to look it up. It's part of your entity registration in sam.gov. But what it means going forward is they'll no longer be using the DUNS number. So that means if you need to register for a unique identifier, you're going to be using the sam.gov system and not the DNB system. And they'll come out with more guidance on that. They're supposed to start in Q1 of 2022 to be able to go into sam.gov and get a unique identifier without going through the full SAM registration. Again, I know it sounds like a broken record, but if you have any questions about that, contact your local PTAC and we should be able to get you to where you need to go. More facts, and a lot of these you can just kind of run through. I like the little tidbit about the DUNS being replaced. It's actually changed to the FAR, so it's a change to law. And then will we be able to see other entities that express interest and opportunities like you were able to do an FBO? Yes, you can see that now, but it's up to the contracting officer who determines whether or not there's an interested vendors list. And I'll show you a little bit more of that in the demo, where to go to find these things. Yeah, it was one of the more frustrating parts of the migration process is right when you knew where the button was, they moved the button. And it seems to be, they're not doing it on purpose. It's part of that agile development process. But it seems to happen fairly often. Another little change that they've made, not little, it's caused some consternation, but it's when you're going through your entity administration and signing up to be the entity administrator, they're doing identity proofing, which requires some extra documentation. Some people are fine with it, some people not so much. There's been arguments made either way. But I am here to tell you that they are considering making it mandatory. And so that's something to look out for, to make sure you have that information when you're becoming your entity administrator. Right now, it's a notarized letter. It's filling out some pieces of information, and eventually you're going to have that identity proofing. Here's just a quick look at the dramatic change in look and feel. Again, these are based on standards and best practices, and it's something that the GSA, it's been a long time coming, but something they've worked really hard on, and something that will continue to be improved again by its user base. So definitely use that feedback button at the bottom of the screen, and and let them know in a respectful way what changes and features you want. Here's the timeline for the integration status. As you can see, these are the systems currently in, and these are the systems coming in. So you'll be able to tell right off the bat there will be more change. The remaining parts of FPDS, I think, will be a very interesting migration because that is a very highly used system. It's got a lot of authoritative data in it. So I think they'll have to think that one through a little bit more. But you can see the UEI right here. That's very much in progress. That is happening. and that should be here April 4th of next year. So this is the the entity registration, entity reporting piece. You'll see there's a couple of different options here to get to where you need to go. I always suggest that when you come in, if you have a login.gov, you sign in so that you can see your requests for notifications, your workspace, and that information. Here's more information about the merger. We've kind of covered that a good bit. If you have any questions on changes, we can always answer them. Your entity information, you can search entities, but you have to be signed in. And so there's no longer just popping in information and pulling out some entity info. You'll also see that when you do access an entity, they no longer have the email address, or not email, but the phone number associated with the contact. So they're just providing address and name. But you can search by keyword, entity DUNS, UEI, CAGE, purpose type, socioeconomic status. It's still a very useful database to use. And we can always help you break down the search if need be, but it's really, I go in there as a PTAC counselor all the time to look up my clients, their renewal dates and things like that, send them their reps and certs. It's a really useful tool. The exclusions. So say that you have a potential teammate, but you want to make sure that they're still above board and there's nothing going on. You don't need to sign in to search the exclusions. Basically, all you do is you go in, you set what kind of exclusion it is, and then you search the entity. Now, the workspace is one of my favorite changes. I think it gives you a really good view of what's going on with your entity. You can now manage reporting. You can manage your saved searches, followed opportunities, your in-progress entities, things of that nature. There are people that manage multiple entities, and that makes this workspace all that more valuable. And when they transitioned from beta.sam to SAM, they really made some positive changes there. It's also a lot easier to do the role request, in my opinion. Help and resources. Again, you'll see the highlighted red boxes. There's a help resource that's really pretty thorough. And then I always suggest people sign in as well. So here's your workspace. As you can see, it's your single view. I can tell my active entity registrations. I can tell any drafts, any in progress, any submitted. I can also look at my reporting and manage my reporting from here. I can assign roles. So if I have a new contracts administrator coming on board and I need to quickly get them a role, then I just pop this and pop their email. You can also look at your saved searches and your following, much like it was before the merger. Now, when you do assign roles, you're left with three options now. You have your data entry, your administrator, and your viewer. There's different levels of access with these. I mean, anything with any entity administrator will have the highest level of access, but you can go all the way down to just viewer, which allows you to view docs and things of that nature. A lot of times we help clients manage these roles. Not everybody in your organization should be an entity administrator, because that gives them the ability to do anything to your entity. But my advice is to have 2 entity administrators. Probably your key personnel would be those people. And the reason I give that advice is it's the hit by the car theory, right? If you were hit by a car tomorrow, would you be able to come in and renew your entity? And that's why you should have 2 entity administrators, because you do have to, there is some lag to get that access, because you have to have that notarized letter. You have to have your identity proofing if you opt in, and you have to send that letter in and then have them link you to that account once it gets to the Federal Service Desk. So there's some lag time there. And if you have two entity administrators, then you're eliminating that. But you definitely shouldn't have a ton, because that will create some issues long term for your entity. Now, the ability to search for your entity, you basically, to access your entity, we will click on this green button in the workspace. Once you click on that, then this screen should pop up. Instead of, when you go to update your entity, instead of clicking on this highlighted title, there are three tiny dots right over here. And that's where you're going to have the ability to update your entity. Again, if you can't find it, if you need help, if you're getting frustrated, reach out to us. We've done this a million times. But that's where you can view your record and update your record. You probably don't want to mess with the deactivate your record. Now, when you're in your record, there's a couple of different things you can do. You can download your core company data and your assertions, which is basically your upfront business information, points of contact, things of that nature. What a lot of people end up doing is needing their reps and certs, because when you're bidding opportunities, the Section K reps and certs is always something that it's about 12 pages long. There's a lot of check marks. The easy way to do that when you're responding to an RFP or an RFQ is to just pull your reps and certs out of sam.gov. You want to make sure they're up to date, because they have changed in the last year or so. Last changes being your Section 889 telecommunications section, and they have a couple more changes. But overall, you can get to your reps and certs now pretty easily by just clicking on this tab on the left. From there, you just pull down your current record. You can download the reports. You can download your FAR or your FAR and DFAR or your assistance reporting. Each one has a different set of reps and certs. So depending on what you're bidding, who for, you can pull those down. It gives you a nice, neat PDF. You can also check them to make sure that you've answered all the questions correctly, and that you're good to go when submitting. Again, the help FSD knowledge base is pretty thorough. They've done a really good job of giving you some really good quick user guides and quick start guides. You can see you can get help based on domain. If you want to report an incident, or if you want to go to live chat, you can always go here to these two sections. Now, in order to go to an incident or go to live chat, you'll need your DUNS number. Currently, your DUNS number. Later on, I can assure you they'll be changing that to your unique identifier. But this is really helpful in case you don't feel like calling the Federal Service Desk. You can try to just go and chat with them. The Federal Service Desk is a great resource. Not only do they have a really thorough knowledge base for this, but they also have some good folks over at the help desk. If you'll always get a live person on the phone, and they're usually more than willing to help. On each domain page, you can get to help through that page. And it will coincide with each page. So if I want help just for contract opportunities, there's a space where I can get it. It's usually at the bottom of the overall domain homepage. And you can see it's changing search filters. They have some YouTube videos that are helpful, searching vendor collaboration opportunities, small business events, etc. So no matter what page you're on, there are two things you can do. You can get feedback and you can get help, which I think is a pretty big upgrade from how the system used to be. And again, the FSD knowledge base, this is linked. So this will take you to the actual knowledge base. They have a wealth of information here. As a PTAC counselor, I use it from time to time if I'm getting stuck with a problem with a client. They have a lot of quick start guides, a lot of different topic areas. So you can usually find what you're looking for pretty quick. Again, when in doubt, you can ask us. When we get stuck, we'll go here or we'll refer to the Federal Service Desk. That's sort of the process that we look at. If we don't know it from prior experience, chances are this is going to be our first stop. These are some other resources. Again, GSA is creating this whole integrated award environment community. If you're a geek like me and you like to keep up on the changes for presentations like this, it's a great resource. But you can actually find some pretty useful information at their local YouTube channel. So they have different bits of training and different bits of info on a variety of systems, not just sam.gov. So that's a pretty useful resource to go to. And then when in doubt, your local PTAC, we're here to assist. You don't have to look through all of these topics because I have. So if you want a quick update or if you have a quick question, it's 9 times out of 10, it's easier. Just give me a call, shoot me an email, and I can give you the lowdown. Okay, so without further ado, we get to jump into the demo. So I'm going to stop my share and we will hop into sam.gov. So this is what you're going to see in your workspace. I'll take you back here first. Here's the home page. As you can see, everything that I screenshotted before is right here. Have questions about SAM. Here's some frequently asked questions. Here's some announcements that they've made. It's just kind of what's been happening over the course of the last few months. What I always do, I come here, first things first, I sign in. It takes me back to my login.gov page. I log in. Now, usually it will ask me for double authentication. And I just have it shoot me a text message. I pop the code in. Quick little tip, that code that they send you is not case sensitive. So you can just type in all lowercase if you're in a hurry. But once I get that double authentication in, it's going to take me to my workspace. Very rarely will you be using this register entity button here. Most of the time, you're hitting your active entity. And then when this comes up, you're going to be viewing your record, deactivating. Now, it doesn't give me the update option because you will see that I have an update already in progress that I can then access from here. But you can also look at the different opportunities that you're following and the different searches that have been saved. Now, probably take a look. I just have some basic searches that I've built out for clients. Now, this is all metal buildings with your NAICS code 236210. And what you'll see with this search is I have started with my NAICS code, and then I've narrowed it down with my keyword. But let's start from the beginning. We will go over here just to make sure everything's fresh. When I'm starting out, I'm going to hop over to contract opportunities. I don't ever use this. I always go to advanced search. And I saw an environmental engineering company here. So let's look at some environmental engineering. As you probably know, when you are working with engineering, 541330 is going to be your NAICS code, engineering services. But I don't want just any engineering service. I want to hit early on in the acquisition lifecycle. So I'm looking at targeting your sources sought and your pre-solicitation notices. That's still 602 results. That's a lot to look through. And it's sorted by relevance, which means that some of these results are going to be pretty dated. So what I do is I can do two things. I come over here and I go to updated date. And this will give me everything that is current up top. Or I look over here at the response date. And I want any response date. I always make it custom. That's just me. You can do what you want. But when I make it custom, I want to give myself a week to respond. It's usually doable if it's an RFI. I can knock one out in a week. But there you go. Now it goes from 600 down to 23. Now these are all just engineering. So maybe I want to put environmental. Now you're down to 3. So I have 3 potential opportunities that I would look at in order to look at environmental engineering with response date of a week out. That's a quick way to get from 600 opportunities to 3 opportunities. Now, when I like this search, I don't go here to save searches. That's where they get you. You're going right up here to your actions. And I can either, now that I'm signed in, I can download the data or I can save the search. If I want to save the search, I just go in and say, hey, EE, environmental engineering, 541330, RFI, pre-solicitation. It doesn't like that, probably. Will give me a dash, it'll give me a dash. Okay, so you just save that down. Now I can go back, now that I have that saved search, I can go back into my workspace. And I can go to that save search. Now again, the 3 buttons. Always look for the 3 buttons. My actions, I want it to notify me. All right, now that's notifying me. So whenever the search results change, I'm going to get an email saying, hey, you have new results here. What that does for me is I don't have to come in here every day and rerun that search. Now, unfortunately, there's some features to be left wanting there because the email will just link you back to this search. But at least it lets me know when it's updated and when I should be coming back to look at updated results. Any questions on that so far? Still good? Okay.
So this is your opportunity to open your mic and ask Billy any question, or if you want to enter something in the chat box, feel free.
Yeah, by all means. We're very much an open book. If you have a particular problem that you're working through here, let me know. We'll take it on together. If you want to contact me after the fact, that's always fine as well. More than happy to give any guidance. Me or Doug. Oh,
hello.
go ahead.
Yes, hello. This is Amber Hawkins, Your Computer Needs of Toledo, LLC in Toledo, Ohio. Thank you for demonstrating this, number one. And also, number two, a quick question I have is when we're going for bids or contract, we have to list our certifications or whatever. It's as if we have a copy of that or something that shows that we have gotten that certification or that we registered with Sam.gov. Is there a way to get that now?
Okay, so your reps and certs, I'll show you a good way to, I believe that's what they're referring to. So when I'm going after my reps and certs, then I'm going to my workspace. I'm going to go to my active button. And then from there, again, you don't just want to click on this. You can click on view record, and you could get there that way as well. And here it has the ability to download up here to the right. Now, if you do that right now, you're just going to get your core data. You don't want your core data. You want your reps and certs. So you
Right.
click on the tab to the left, your reps and certs, and you can see certification, read-only provisions. So what I'm going to do there is I want my current record. And then if I'm going after a civil opportunity, you only need your FAR. But I work a lot in the DoD space, so I probably pull my FAR and my DFAR. Now, the tricky part is you still have to click on this PDF button. But once you click on that PDF, you can pull it down. And now the thing you want to note, though, is you'll see that my expiration date is March 9th, 2022, which means my last update was March 9th, 2021. So have any reps or certs changed from March 9th, 2021 until now that would make this record not current? But you can see it pulls down all of my different reps and certs in a nice tight PDF. And then from there, it really becomes a matter of attaching that to your response as your reps and certs. But again, just to be certain, you want to make sure that your reps and certs are the most up to date that they can get.
All right, thank you very much.
Got a
Certainly.
question here in the chat box, Billy.
Mhm.
Listener is asking if you could review how you filter searches again, giving locations as an example.
Wonderful. Yeah, I am happy to dig into that for you. Okay, so we're going to say I'm an electrician. Let's go to contract opportunities. You always start there. Here's another helpful note, though. If you don't want to filter by NAICS code, if you're not, I always start filtering by NAICS codes because I find it's a great broad way, and every contract officer will use a NAICS code of some form or fashion. So I want to look at Yep. Let's try HVAC. You would think I would know all of these codes by now, but unfortunately we don't. We'll start out with construction and just go construction. Now this is a very broad code. You can see it's a 2-letter code, and they can go all the way to 6. But what I want to start doing is, I still don't know why they have zip code as one of the defaults. You're going to want to go by state. And so Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky. We're not going to that state up north. So what we will do there is basically you're still sitting at 437 results. It is sorted by updated date now, which is good. Now you can look at it one of two ways. You can take all of these and download them and save your search, but I probably want to look at narrowing it down a little bit more. This is where I give a little bit of advice. When you're targeting a certain client or a certain organization, it is great to know their language. Each organization uses their own acronyms, and they use their own language when they're putting some of these out. So I can see that I want to target U.S. Army Corps Louisville. So I know U.S. Army Corps acronym is US ACE, so we're down to 232. I know that Louisville is usually followed by district. If it gives it to me, we're back up to 250 because it gives you the extra result. Now I want to narrow it down because, again, I'm going after sources sought and pre-solicitations. And so when I do that, we get down to 76. Now we're looking at current response dates, and you can narrow it down even more with the current response date. But what I've done, I basically just set up a regional search using my service area, and then from there you try to narrow it down with your different client acronyms. I could also do Wright Pat Air Force Base. You kind of see where I'm going with using that acronym soup to your advantage. And you could also look at doing, instead of client-based, say I want to do nothing but steel buildings or steel. And you can get it down that way. Because again, you're starting very broad with your NAICS codes or your product service codes. Then you narrow them down using keywords and your other search criteria. Another great use of this contract domains piece is, say I'm looking for opportunities to connect with customers. So I want different events. I want different industry days. If I'm in construction, maybe I want different site visits. So what I'm going to do is come in here, and let's say I'm still that regional construction company. So I want Ohio, I want Indiana, I want Kentucky. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this notice type. When you're searching for events, every event will be a special notice. And you can see they're already popping up. Industry Day for Wright Pat Family Housing. But now I want to further that. Industry Day site visit. Oh, I just butchered that. It'd help if I didn't have fat fingers today, guys. Site visit. We could do event. And now I'm going to narrow it down even more by possibly putting in my 2-3 construction NAICS. And now this is searching for relevance. I want updated date. And you'll see there's not going to be an industry day or a site visit, every week. But this is a useful search to save when you're looking at potentially putting together some calendar events where you can connect with the customer. And when this, you just basically, you go down, I save this search as well. I save it as industry days and events, NAICS 23, save it down. And then we go right over here to my trusty Workspace. I'm going back to my saved searches, and I'm making that notify me. So I know whenever I get an email that I have an updated industry day or event in my area. And that gives me a good chance to build out those calendars and sign up to attend the event and reach out to the customer.
Billy, we've got another listener that was asking if you can show how to retrieve demolition projects.
Demolition. All right. So let's do, so I'm going to do a stop share real quick just so I can look up the demolition NAICS code. Do they have any particular area, or they just want me to find, let's see. Got you covered there. We'll go ahead and do a share. Okay, again, Roy's, we start at the home page. We don't have to start at the home page. We can refresh the search. I'm just kind of funny like that. So what I'm going to start out with, my trusty NAICS code, it's 238910, site preparation. And so that's going to pull in 231 results. That's not bad, but you see it's sorted by relevance. So we want updated date. It's still at 231, but we're just seeing the most current ones. Now, with demolition, you can go one of two ways. I could try to narrow it down and go, I only want sources sought and pre-solicitation. That gives me 63, and then you can narrow it down further by your response date. Whether you want it in the next week, that narrows it down to 2. But you could also look at it this way. Go back to search and reset. I could go and look at just overall 0 site prep contractors, demolition as the keyword, take it down to 99 results, and here's your most updated list. So you could do it that way, and then I only want my regional, because you do got to be in person to do a lot of that. So Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So that gives you 4 results that you can potentially look into. Another good thing about this is you'll see that these results, Department of Army, probably the U.S. Army Corps, U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Coast Guard, 3 from the Coast Guard. So you may want to reach out to the Coast Guard Small Business Office, give them your capability statement, and then introduce yourself and say, hey, do you have a forecast of upcoming opportunities? And can I have that forecast? Oh, also, by the way, do you have a calendar of upcoming events that I might be able to attend? Or, do you have anybody in your organization that I should talk to about this NAICS code 238910 of demolition? So those are all definitely bits of information that are helpful. Even if you don't end up bidding this opportunity, the Coast Guard has work in your area. So it may be helpful to reach out. That's something that the PTAC always helps with. We help a ton with putting together your capability statement and making those connections with the Office of Small Business Programs, small business offices, and different agencies, because it's great to bid to win here on sam.gov and find your events and opportunities, but it's even better to make relationships with that client in order to get to the opportunity before it's on sam.gov. My favorite saying is, even though we are guided by the federal acquisition regulation, this is still very much a relationship-based business. People will always want to do work with others they know, like, and trust. So you kind of have to have 2 different full-time jobs. Looking at your bid match opportunities that the PTAC will send you free of charge, having your saved searches in sam.gov for your upcoming opportunities and your events, but also using your capability statement, doing your market research, and reaching out to those different agencies to create that connection, create that relationship. It sounds like a lot, it is, but it's well worth it. The government is going to be your best client. They always pay on time, they always have more work, and they always will speak your praises if you do a good job.
Another request from a listener, Billy, if you could go back into a saved search and change the criteria, then save it as a new search.
Okay, so here is your environmental engineering 541 RFI pre-solicitation. I no longer want that to be an RFI or a pre-solicitation. So I just want everything. Then what I'm doing, I'm coming over here. I'm not doing a save because a save will save it back down under the title EE 541330. I'm doing a save as when you save that search. So when I save this search, I'm going to do, it's no longer an EE 541330 RFI, it's an EE 541330 all AQ stages. Then I save that down. Again, don't forget, we're going to go back into our workspace every time there's a saved opportunity or a saved search. So I'm going to this save searches, and I want this all stages to notify me. You always want your searches to notify you, and that way your notifications have been turned on. You get the email. Whenever anything changes, it pops back over to you. But remember, when you're doing your searches, it's always the save as, or else you'll overwrite your search. And then you got to go back through and you got to think, okay, what was my criteria prior? Did I have this and not that? It gets pretty hairy. So that's basically, and we used to have to do that a lot because it wouldn't let you save more than one state at a time as a location. Finally, they made that improvement. And that's why you always keep in mind that there's this little green button down here to give your feedback to say, hey, I wanted to be able to search multiple states. Something like that. You might want to take the hey out of there. Again, be respectful, be specific, because this feedback does make a difference. It helps them prioritize which features and capabilities that they're going to implement next, which is it's helpful for the GSA team. Again, they're people just like us. This has been a monumental effort. I'm not being paid to say this. I'm not part of their development team, but they are trying their best to make this the most useful tool as possible when they're making these changes and doing these rollouts. Another thing I wanted to show you is on every opportunity, there should be, once you're signed in, when you're signed in, you have the ability of to follow, which you can follow any opportunity. And let's do that real quick. Okay, so we followed this guy. Now that I'm following it, I want to go back to my workspace. And here's one of the frustrating parts. So which opportunities I'm following? Well, it doesn't give me a title. It just gives me solicitation numbers. So I can look at, hopefully it's, let's see, I'm going to guess it's this one by the last modified date, but you can see it's got an email frequency. This is when it notifies me of the update to the opportunity. It's daily, weekly, or not, and immediate. So I just want to make sure that it's immediate because I want to know when any changes. You can follow, unfollow, or become an interested entity. Do I wish to change interested entity? I don't want to do that yet. Let's go back to this opportunity in order to show you that you can view a list of interested vendors for each opportunity that the contracting officer allows. So it's up to the contracting officer whether or not they want the interested vendors list. This will give you a listing of every company with their contact info for the opportunity. Now, this is public data, and I just want to give you a word of advice and kind of a warning. This list is not the end-all be-all, because if I'm the incumbent or if I'm somebody that has an inside track on this opportunity, I'm not putting my name out there. I don't want my name publicized. I don't want people knowing that I'm going after this opportunity. Element of surprise, art of war. But at the same time, this could be a really useful list if you're just starting out or if you don't yet know the customer, because you can add yourself to the list. I can add Rebel Martech to the list and it'll publish my information, let people contact me. But you can reach out to some of these other companies as well. Another thing you can do is, okay, I'm curious about this Echidna Integrity. I want to team with them, but I want to check into them first. So I'm going to go over here And I'm going to go into exclusions. I want to know, does Echidna have any exclusions? No matches found. That's a great thing. But I did that by keyword. So let's look at the excluded entity. I want to know personally, by Sam, by cage code, are they excluded? No, that's great. So that's a really good integrity check. When you're looking at teaming with some of these companies, you might just want to run it through the system just to make sure. But another thing you can do with this, which is pretty helpful, is I can go in, I can look up Echidna, entity type, or entity. And I can pull up their info. Yeah, I can see what their reps and certs are to make sure they're up to date. This is another tool you can use when you're teaming on a project. You can pull your teammates' reps and certs, for them. It's great to ask them first. I mean, it's kind of encroaching if not. But you can do some quick research on these companies. Make sure that they're not there's nothing out of place there before you team with them. And another time, actually, let's do it now. I'm going to show you another quick way to do some great competitive research, which is using a tool. I know I'm going a little off track here, but this is another great way to do market research. Is I can go to usaspending.gov advanced search, and if I want competitive intel, I'm going right here, type in the DUNS or the cage, search. Let's pull their DUNS. It's still not pulling them in. But a good way to do some additional market research is to push them through USA Spending. Let me try one more thing. Hidden search. And it may just be my search is slow. But this is a great way to do some competitive intel. These are all the past contracts awarded on USA Spending. And it doesn't look like this will pull up anything. But you can certainly use this as a great tool in conjunction with your sam.gov. Highly suggested. It's something that I use daily. And if you ever have any questions on how to use that, we can do another webinar, or we can run through it one-on-one. Great place to do competitive intel. But to start off with, you definitely want to use the entity registrations portion of sam.gov. You can look at anything from exclusions to your core data and assertions here, which is it's really helpful just when you're looking at teammates and just a quick checkup on them, if you will. Another thing, going back to your search and your opportunities that you're following. Let's again go back to our workspace. When I am looking at opportunities that I'm following, it is frustrating that they're like this, but you can always pull them down like this. You can always pull them down into, let's see here. Click off those and then pull them down that way. Trying to see it. I lost the button, but there's should be a way where you can pull them down into a spreadsheet. I know that you can pull everything else down. That's another great piece is your downloads button. So I don't currently have any links available, but stored files are sent to your email, and the 7-day, you have 7-day storage period, limited to 50 available files. So if you have tried to pull down some files, you can always go to your downloads in your workspace and you can retrieve them within the 7-day period, which is helpful if you're pulling down a bunch of docs that you need for an opportunity. It's just a neat little capability there. Another thing to look at is your entity management. And I know I'm kind of jumping around a couple of different places, but I remembered real quick that when you, let's see, when you view your record here, or no, my apologies, it's back in your workspace. You have your ability to assign roles. So when I click the assign role, it's really as easy as picking an email address. They'll probably tell me I've already got a role. But once you pick the email, you pick your role, pick your domain. Usually it's your basic domains. And by domains, they mean your contract opportunities, entity registration, contract data, those domains. Those are the ones they mean. And then you just give a business justification real quick and send the invitation. Really simple to assign roles using this workspace. And if you need help managing those roles, that's something we can come in and kind of help you think about. Because again, you don't want everybody using the entity administrator role when there's data viewer roles and different roles available that aren't as intrusive as your entity administrator role.
Got another question. The listener was asking if you could check the status of a solicitation and who won it at what price. He was asking if he placed a bid on it. I don't know whether you'd like to open your mic and give the specific company, or you just want a generic demonstration to check the status of the solicitation and who won it at what price.
Do you have the solicitation number by chance? I would probably, if I'm going in to check.
Yeah, give me a moment and I'll look it up.
Sure. So here's my tool for checking single solicitations. This is the part of FPDS that they haven't migrated into the system yet. They're easy search. So if I'm looking up a single solicitation, I'm going to FPDS. If I'm doing overall market research, I'm going to usaspending.gov. So this is great for high-level research where you can type in, you'll see the NAICS codes are very similar. I mean, the search criteria is very similar to sam.gov. But if I'm going for a single solicitation, and we'll just give one for example. So I can look at, and this is the authoritative data source for this solicitation. So anything under this solicitation, all modifications, and remember, mod 0 is your original award. So I can pull all this down. I can tell how much they have awarded, how many times they've modded the contract. You have Syscom here. I know they're the winner. Just a whole wealth of data here. You can tell what PSC code's under. Yeah, it's really a useful tool when you're doing that competitive intel. And you can search on a variety of factors here too. Really a useful tool.
I have that number now if you want it.
Sure, shoot.
Okay, it is M00 68121 Q0075.
All right.
That's it.
No results. Let's move back out. Okay, what that means is it is either a very recent award, which I'm guessing it is. Let me try one other thing here. It may be a very recent award because anything over $10,000, I believe, is the number. I might be a little off on that number, but anything over that amount, by law, should be posted to the Federal Procurement Data System.
I have another number that's not so recent.
Sure.
Okay, that's M0068 121. I'm sorry, I gave you the same number over again. Here, start over. It's W52 P1J -21 -Q -MNPM.
That look right to you?
Yep.
Okay, so here's just a little tip there. Sometimes the dashes throw off the system. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those out. I think I did that right. Still nothing. W5P1 J21 QMNPM. That's the right number, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm not certain why this is not producing anything. Let me go to the advanced search. New search. And that's interesting. Let me just do something really quick to check it here.
He could be giving you the wrong solicitation number.
It looks like it's off. You know, another quick way to do it, honestly, is to do that. And it looks like it's right here. And then we pop it into here. So I'm not certain why it's not pulling it up from FPDS, unless
That's
it's
the correct one.
of, what's that?
When you looked it up on the internet, that was the correct one.
Yes,
Yeah.
it may be part of a larger IDIQ, which is why it's not pulling it up on FPDS, because it would track it by its overall IDIQ number. But there's kind of the hint. I mean, if when in doubt, pop it into Google, and if it comes up, then you start digging from there.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and once you get enough from Google, then you start using these systems like FPDS, USAspending.gov. I've hounded down a lot of contract info using the combination of these two. My take is, and this is a little bit of a clunky system, FPDS. You know, and it's the authoritative data source though. So right when there's a mod, when there's something that comes up, it should be in this system by law, because it's part of the overall award environment that we're working in. Now, is it perfect? Not by any means. You can get pretty good with this system My preference has always been this because it's a little bit of a better user interface. But when I'm doing singular contract research, I'm coming here to FPDS every time. And also,
what was the dollar amount of the transaction? When you submitted your bid, what was the dollar amount?
Mine was $103,000.
yeah, it should certainly be an FPDS unless it was under a larger IDIQ.
Usually FPDS takes several months, sometimes at least a month before it reports.
Well, they do have they have a mandatory reporting time frame, and then FPDS kicks over a lot of that data over to USA Spending. So while USA Spending is not the authoritative source, it's fed by the authoritative source. Another great way to attack that would be to use the data bank in Sam.gov. Now you're going to be doing ad hoc reporting and running some reports that way. But basically it's going to give you this report builder and you're going to create the report. Just kicked me out of it. It's sorry, bug in the system. It must not like me having all these windows open. But you can use that MicroStrategy report builder to build out different reports that should catch that data as it comes in. But when in doubt, your authoritative source is going to be FPDS in their easy search. And the cool thing about FPDS, well, we'll just go back to this example. You can start digging down into the treasury account signals or symbols. You can dig down into the company itself. So, I want all of Syscom. You can sort by contract type, zip. I mean, there's 80 ways from Sunday to slice and dice this data. It's a matter of how comfortable you are with the tool. You can pull it down into PDF or CSV if you want to work it in Excel. If you have a DUNS number, you can pop a DUNS number in there and it'll pull up the company info. Again, if you're not looking for authoritative, I prefer to use USA Spending. Let me see if I can't pull just an example. Reset the search. We'll do recipient. I want to look up Lockheed. It's a big one. Submit. Now I have all the contracts by Lockheed Martin, and you can do that by DUNS number. You can dig down by award ID. When I'm looking at potential teammates or partners, I like to look at this page a lot because it's going to give me how they're trending as a company. It's going to give me their top 5 awarding agencies, their top 5 awarding sub-agencies, their top 5 NAICS codes, their top 5 product service codes. This is really helpful if they're a competitor and you're doing competitive intelligence, because if your competitor is having success in one of these product service codes or these NAICS codes, imitation is flattery. I mean, you definitely want to include that in your search on your capability statement. And then, the other information. So really useful tool. That brings up another important aspect I wanted to share with you. I know we're getting a little long in the tooth here, but when I'm looking at different, I don't care what my NAICS is. I want to work with this agency. So definitely use this federal organizations tab when you want to narrow it down. So the problem is they're still not going deep enough. One of the greatest things about FedBizOps is this organizational structure would dig deep down to the office level, which gave you some really discrete results, and it lets you save some really great searches. It's not going to get that deep anymore. Matter of fact, you can't really go below the Department of Air Force, that's not doing me much good. But if I want to go for the, maybe National Park Service, you can get to something like that as a sub tier. And then I want to know any steel buildings that they're doing. And I want to know.
How about searching like by a DODAC code for like a particular office? You know, like say if there's a Navy office in, in Washington, and if you put in their code, can you just search by that way?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can try. Again, where the system is right now, I don't know if it'll get you there, but it's definitely worth the shot. And that gets back to, my foot stomp is hop in here and learn what works and what doesn't. It's going to take a little bit of massaging for you to get the right, what I call the Goldilocks mix, which is you don't want 3,000 results every time you plug the search criteria in, but you don't want 0 results for an extended amount of time either, because you don't want things that could potentially be falling off the side without you noticing. So it's about coming in here and finding that good mix of criteria that works for you. I've found if I'm in engineering or IT, or if there's something that uses a very niche software, calling that software out by name in your keywords, sometimes that works really well. Or if there's a certain program management method or process, because it really is, it's very keyword driven, this new search that they've implemented. But at the same time, for a fact that every contracting officer, whenever he puts out an opportunity, there's going to be a NAICS code associated with it. So that's your tried and true, that's your fail safe right there, is to start out that way. And then build off it from there. And look into using some agency acronyms. Look into using some potential organizations. Definitely set up your notice types. Now, when I was over in my BD days, I was doing multiple searches. I was doing one search for enterprise data warehousing. I was doing one search for software development. Then I was doing one search for business intelligence. And sometimes those would have overlap, but I would have those searches in a bucket. And then I would have a search, just general search for industry days surrounding those broad IT NAICS codes, 541, 519, 541, 512, 541, 511. So I was saving multiple searches because it allowed me to stay organized and build out this opportunity is due here, this one's due here, this industry day is here. So it made it a little bit more manageable. On top of this sam.gov search, don't forget that you also have the bid match search that the local PTAC can do, which is basically you're giving us your search criteria, and then we're setting up a search that emails you opportunities every day based on that criteria. And we're doing the same thing on our end. We're trying to massage that criteria to be as efficient as possible. So A, we're not another spam email in your inbox, but B, so that it adds the good manageable number of opportunities for you to look at, for you to send to us to help you look at, and for you to potentially pursue. And we may do multiple searches on our end and able to make that more manageable for you. So it's really about how you're searching and using this criteria, that will help you best manage what's coming out of the system. The data is good, but sometimes the display is bad because you remember it usually defaults to relevance in the search, not updated date. So you don't want to end up looking at opportunities from October of 2016. You always want to watch that, sort by, and then always watch the response date.
Hey, Billy, can you submit your bid on sam.gov?
I haven't seen the ability to. Now, I'm not saying it's completely impossible. There are systems that sam.gov will send you to. So I know if you are in the Navy likes to use Unison. which is it's another system outside of sam.gov. So you'll see the opportunity listed here because remember, it's mandated, it's over 25K, but then that link will take you over to unison.gov, and that you can submit bids through Unison. Same thing with DLA DIBS, the Internet Bid Board system. It'll have a link here, but it'll pop you over to DIBS, and that's where you work through the bid. So, not to my knowledge, but there's definitely other systems that will send you to where you can.
Another question, if I'm the only person in my company to use sam.gov, do I need to be assigned a role, and do I need to assign anyone else a role?
Good question. That depends. So if you're the only one in your company that uses sam.gov to do search, then probably not. But if you're the only one in your company that uses sam.gov to update your entity and you are the entity administrator, then you may want to just have a backup entity administrator. That may help just in case you're incapacitated and somebody needs to come in and update your sam.gov. You would be really surprised about how many times we get reached out to from contracting or reached out to by the company itself saying, hey, we just got an award, but my sam.gov account's expired. And you kind of pull your hair out thinking, man, you've got notices. They give you a heads up on that. But it's a lot, it's more often than you think. So if that's the case, but you're unable to do it, you may want to have a backup as an entity administrator. That's just my opinion, my thoughts.
I'm not sure if this is a follow-up that needs to be addressed. Mr. Lynn, he sent a number M00681221Q0075. I don't know whether this was a revision of your earlier question or if we already covered that in Billy's demonstration earlier.
Let's go ahead and give it a shot. Oh, we covered it?
Yeah, yes, you did.
Okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you have any more questions on that, if you need us to dig any deeper, another great thing about the PTAC, I know I'm kind of blowing our own horn here, but we have internal market research tools that we can use too. We have a cadre of them here that range from FedMine, Easy GovOps, all the way to to Haystack, where we're looking up part numbers and things like that. So when in doubt, we can always dig deeper for you to see if there's a way to get that information. I can also recommend if you submitted a bid to that opportunity, always, win or lose, always request a debrief, because that's going to let you get a good lessons learned. And that gives you another opportunity to touch the client. So it's always imperative to get that debrief, get your lessons learned done, and assure that client that, hey, we're going to bid the next one because we're still interested in working with you.
Hey, Billy, I got one quick question.
Sure.
So how we're looking at your screen right now, under entity registration, it's green with a 1.
Yep.
Mine, I'm logged in, but under entity registration, it says 0. Why is that?
You may not be tied to your entity. Are you the entity administrator?
Yes.
You are.
I think I am.
Is your login tied? So you don't have the one active?
Correct.
Okay. What is your well, I tell you what, we'll take that offline. I don't want to show your entity information publicly.
I don't care. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and we'll go. Another quick way to access the search. You can access any domain through search here. I'm a creature of habit.
I'm 82832.
Let's see. Is that your unique ID or your DUNS?
Page code 82.
Oh,
832.
82832?
Yeah.
Erickson Manufacturing Company?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so your expiration date's coming up, which is good. You probably want to schedule a meeting with your PTAC in October, early November, I'd say late October.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that soon.
It's showing you're active. So that's good. Your purpose, all awards, your current record. Let's look at your points of contact.
So
Okay,
now I'm Joe Barbado. Now,
okay.
right, is
Yeah,
it because maybe John has something else that it's not being green over there?
What you're going to do, Joe, is you can do one of two things. You can have John go into his workspace and assign a role.
Okay.
Pop your email in there. If you're just doing search, you can do the contract opportunities domain. If you're doing updating the entity, then I would do the entity registrations domain. You can enter the entity and the business justification and send you an invitation. Then all you should have to do is go into your email and open up the email that it sends you and follow the instructions. Now,
Gotcha. Okay.
if he's going to make you the entity administrator, you'll also have to follow that up with a notarized letter. And we have the template here we can send to you that you send to the Federal Service Desk, and that'll make you the administrator. They'll tie you back to the company.
So I'm
And
not
so
the administrator right now?
If you're not showing an active registration, unless you could have another login.gov account, you could have more than one login.gov accounts that you would need to sign into in order to see that. If it's not showing you as an active one,
Okay.
then you are not currently, no.
All right, roger that. Thank you.
Certainly, and those are problems we can help you work through. You know, with the move, again, they've moved a lot of these buttons, and they've made some good changes to search. But that's why we're here to help, because I've climbed that tree before and I got the scars to prove it. Kind of, sort of, it's that kind of scenario where chances are we can probably give you a good course of action, if not an answer off the bat. I always like to say, if I don't got a guy, I got a guy who's got a guy, because we do have, you know, different resources we can reach out to and pull in that may have been through this before. When all else fails, we'll send you over to the Federal Service Desk. We'll get you that 1-800 number, or you can contact them through the chat, you know, either or. But hopefully we can get you through it before having to do that. Sometimes it's an issue with the system. I've recently helped two companies for a contracting officer because their small business concern, the fact that they were a small business, was not showing. And we had to work together to find a workaround to the SAM.gov system in order for them to get the contract award, because there was a big roadblock there. But we know to do that, and we can help out. So it's really, yeah, it's something that we do on a daily basis.
Can you go back and show me how you started that search for that gentleman's cage code?
Oh, certainly. So as with all good things, we can go at it two different ways. And with the update, there's 8 ways to get to the same place. I will go to entity registration. I will go to, you can use this, I just never do. I like my advanced search.
While you're on that topic, Billy, is it necessary to register the entity?
Okay, so if you want to do any work with the federal government, yes. Now there are companies that will come in here when they implement the new unique identifier. They'll come in here just to get their unique identifier for other purposes. But if you want to work with the federal government or get federal grants, then yes, you will need to register your entity. So if you come down here, we go to entity, and it gives you can search by name, DUNS, unique ID. We said 823, I'm guessing.
832.
832. I almost had it.
Yeah, it only took me about 2 years to figure that out.
Once you pop that in, now here's another thing you can use this database for. So say I want to know, and let's reset the search. say I want to know all of the 8A companies. All right, we'll go woman-owned. I want to know all the woman-owned companies in 45432. 14 woman-owned companies in my zip. So you can start looking at those guys as potential partners. And you can do this. Yeah, if I want to know.
I think what he was asking is, you know, when you go look up a company,
Mhm.
right? What are your search options? You can search by DUNS number. You can search by, what are the different choices? Cage, entity
Yeah.
name. So yeah, once you can search it all takes you to the same place, right?
It does. You can search by keyword. You can search by socioeconomic status, location. You can search by NAICS code. That tends to happen a lot, especially if you're looking for city, state, congressional district. It can get pretty discreet. If I'm looking for folks that are doing business with Wright-Patt Air Force Base, then I could put that in as a keyword. That may or may not work, but I could always do companies around Dayton, Ohio, and then just kind of start picking them apart, because you'd figure that if companies are located close to that organization, chances are they probably work with. And you'll see, as we work through and get more systems into Sam.gov, this is your one-stop shop. Now, I know I showed a couple of other systems that we tend to use, but if you're looking for upcoming opportunities, companies, upcoming events, if you have to do work on your own entity, I mean, this is where you're going to be. It's going to be Sam.gov, and it'll keep changing, but hopefully I gave you guys some good guidance, some good tips and tricks, and hopefully, got you a little bit more enthused about using the environment today.
Hey, is DSBS, is that eventually going to go away, or is that going to still stay around?
I don't know. That's another great database to use for search. As you just saw, searching for companies based on socioeconomic status, based on in SAM. That's a great database to use for that as well. I can tell you a great workaround to the fact that SAM does not post contact information unless you're a registered interested vendor, is if they're a small company you want to know more on, you can search that company in DSBS and still get contact info. So that's kind of been my workaround to SAM not including that information anymore.
Beautiful.
Anything else, guys? I mean, I really do thank you for hanging out and hanging out for the presentation, for some of this information. Again, we are always here to help. Hopefully I gave you some ammo to go back with and try on your own, but it's not if, it's when you have questions. And hopefully we can either answer them or point you to the right resource that can.
Really good stuff.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, always happy. I dig this stuff. So
Nice.
I'm always happy to sit down with anybody and and see what we can get done, because
Nice.
it's a fluid system. And right when we think we got it mastered, they're going to move a button. It's just kind of the nature of the game at this point. Anything to add to that, Doug? Are we any follow-up, guys? I'll tell you my name and information, and I'll put my email in the chat as well.
And the other thing too is I'll be sending the PowerPoint presentation to all of you who participated in today's presentation. And we appreciate your feedback. We'll have a couple of questions of whether this was useful information and how can we improve for the next time when we address this topic.